My mother called me on a Thursday morning in February and she couldn't remember the word for spoon. She was making oatmeal. She called it the scooping thing. Then she laughed, a nervous, embarrassed laugh, and said, "Never mind. Forget it. I'm just tired." And I let her. I said, "Okay, Mom, get some rest." I hung up. I went back to my coffee and my laptop and my ordinary Thursday. That was the first sign I dismissed. My name is Carrie Hollis. I'm 39 years old. I'm a high school librarian in Boise, Idaho. I live 2 handy miles from my mother, Judith Hollis, who is 71 and lives alone in the same house in Caldwell where she raised me and my brother, Owen. I want to tell you exactly what happened over the next 5 months because someone out there needs to hear it. Someone out there is getting the same Thursday morning phone calls, noticing the same small slips, and telling themselves the same thing I told myself. She's just tired. She's just getting older. It's nothing. It was not nothing. But here is the part that will surprise you. The part that changed everything I thought I knew about what was happening to my mother. The doctor's report, when we finally got it, did not say what we expected. And the journey between that Thursday in February and the afternoon I sat in a neurologist's office, reading that report, is the story I want to tell you today. My mother is not a dramatic woman. She doesn't call unless she has a reason. She texts in complete sentences with punctuation, which my students find hilarious when I mention it. She reads 2 books a week, always has, mystery novels and memoirs, and the occasional historical fiction that she describes as her education now that school is long over. She tends a vegetable garden that produces more zucchini than any one person could possibly eat. She donates the surplus to her church. She drives herself to the grocery store and the salon and her book club every second Tuesday and has never once asked me or Owen to do anything she could do herself. She is sharp. She has always been sharp. That was the first reason I didn't worry. Sharp people don't just stop being sharp. Or so I thought. After the spoon incident, things stayed quiet for about 3 weeks. Normal calls, normal conversations. She told me about a book she was reading. She complained about the neighbor's dog. She asked me if I was eating enough vegetables, which she has asked me every week since I was approximately 7 years old. I started to think I'd imagined the edge in her voice that Thursday morning. Then Owen called me. Owen is 3 years older than me, 42, lives 40 minutes from Mom in Nampa, which means he sees her more often than I do. He's not an alarmist. He coaches his son's Little League team and fixes his own roof and generally operates at a frequency of steady and unbothered that I have always slightly envied. So when Owen calls and his voice has that particular quality, that careful, measured quality that people use when they're trying not to panic, I know to pay attention. He'd gone over for Sunday dinner, which he does most weeks. Mom had cooked, which she always does, because she considers Sunday dinner a sacred act and does not accept substitutes. But at the table, she called Owen by their father's name. Twice. Their father, Ray Hollis, has been dead for 9 years. Owen told me gently, "Mom, it's Owen." She blinked, laughed, said she must have him on her mind. She'd been dreaming about him lately. Owen laughed too. He let it go. But he called me on his drive home. "Carrie, something's off." "I know. Have you noticed anything?" I told him about the spoon. "The scooping thing." He was quiet for a moment. "That's not nothing." "No, I don't think it is." We didn't use the word dementia. Not that night. It floated somewhere just outside the conversation. A word with too much weight to put down casually on a Sunday night phone call. But we both knew we were building a case around something we weren't ready to name. We decided Owen would start stopping by more often. Casually. No big deal, just in the neighborhood. He'd pay attention. He'd take notes. What he found over the next month made us both go quiet. She'd stopped watering the vegetable garden. Not neglected it, exactly. It still looked okay from a distance. But when Owen walked through it, he noticed the soil was completely dry, cracked, untouched for at least 2 weeks. My mother, who waters that garden every morning the way other people check their phones. The mail was piled on the kitchen counter, 2 weeks deep, still in its envelopes. Not because she hadn't brought it in, because she'd brought it in, stacked it, and not opened any of it. There were 2 bills in there that were past due. She couldn't find her reading glasses. She'd bought 2 pairs. Both pairs were in the same drawer in the kitchen, the drawer she'd apparently stopped checking. She asked Owen what month it was. She asked him twice in the same conversation. He texted me that night, a single message. We need to take her to a doctor. Here's where I have to be honest with you about something I am not proud of. My first reaction was not, we need to help her. My first reaction was fear. Not fear for my mother, but a more selfish fear. The fear of what this would mean. The logistics. The miles between us. My job. Owen's job. His kids. The house she'd never leave willingly. The argument she would almost certainly put up because my mother is 71 years old and has been taking care of herself since she was 16 and does not accept help gracefully. I sat with that fear for about 45 minutes. Then I booked a flight to Boise for the following weekend. Getting my mother to agree to see a doctor was its own negotiation. She said she was fine. We said we knew she was fine. We just wanted a checkup. Nothing specific, just the kind of baseline assessment they recommend for everyone over 70. She said she had a doctor. We said, great, let's make an appointment with that doctor. She said she'd already had her annual physical in the fall. We said, wonderful, and now we'd like to go together as a family to just have a general conversation. We did not say we were worried. We did not say we'd noticed things. We did not say the word dementia, still, even then. We were not ready to, and more importantly, we knew that if we put that word in the air too early, she'd dig in, and we'd never get her through the door. She agreed, finally, in the way she agrees to things she doesn't fully want to do. Reluctantly, with conditions. Owen drives. No big production about it. We go in, we have a conversation, we leave. Her doctor, a GP named Weston Park, who's been her physician for about 12 years, was kind and thorough and did not make her feel like a specimen. He asked her questions about her daily routine. He asked her to remember 3 words: apple, penny, table, and recall them later. He did a brief cognitive screener, the kind that asks you to draw a clock and count backward from 100 by sevens. He checked her blood pressure, her reflexes, her thyroid levels. Afterward, he spoke with all 3 of us. He said the screener showed some performance that warranted further evaluation. He did not say dementia. He said, let's do a full panel of blood work and get a referral to a neurologist for a more comprehensive assessment. He was calm. He was careful. He was not giving anything away. The blood work came back within a week. Owen called me when the results were posted to her patient portal because I'd asked him to check. Because Mom wouldn't call me, she'd look at the numbers and either worry alone or convince herself it was nothing. He read them to me over the phone in his kitchen while his kids watched something in the other room. Her B12 was critically low, not slightly low, not borderline, critically, flagged in red, call your doctor immediately low. Her vitamin D was severely deficient. She had a thyroid abnormality that hadn't been caught at her last physical because it had apparently developed or worsened since then. Hypothyroidism, undertreated, contributing to fatigue and cognitive slowing. Owen paused before he got to the last one. And she's severely dehydrated, chronically. Like, the doctor says that this isn't a one-time thing, this looks like it's been going on for a long time. I sat down on my kitchen floor. I am not exaggerating. My legs just gave and I sat down on the tile. Because I know what B12 deficiency does to a brain. I'm not a medical professional, but I'm a reader, I'm a researcher. I spent my professional life helping people find information, and somewhere in those 9 months of quietly worrying, I'd read enough to know that severe B12 deficiency causes neurological symptoms, memory problems, word retrieval failures, confusion, the kind of cognitive decline that looks, from the outside, exactly like early dementia. The scooping thing, Owen's name becoming Ray's name. The dates, the glasses, the mail. It was the B12, and the thyroid, and the dehydration she hadn't even noticed was happening because it had become her normal. Not dementia. Not necessarily. Not yet. Possibly not ever. We still needed the neurologist. We still needed to rule things out, confirm things, get the full picture. But what we had right now was a list of treatable, correctable, measurable deficiencies that had been quietly dismantling my mother's cognition for who knows how long. I cried in my kitchen for about 20 minutes. Then I called Owen and we made a plan. The neurologist appointment was 3 weeks out. In those 3 weeks, Dr. Park started Mom on B12 injections, adjusted her thyroid medication, and gave her a vitamin D supplement at a high dose to correct the deficiency. He also had a long conversation with her about hydration, about what chronically not drinking enough water does to a brain that's already navigating the changes of aging, about why this was serious and needed to be treated like a real medical issue and not an inconvenience. My mother, to her credit, listened. She does not like being told she's wrong, but she likes facts. Give her actual numbers, actual physiology, actual evidence, and she will adjust her position. She's always been like that, as part of why she drove me crazy as a teenager and why I admire her completely as an adult. She started drinking the water. She let Owen take her for the injections. Within 10 days, she called me to tell me she'd watered the garden. The neurologist visit was with a woman named Dr. Fiona Reyes, who practiced about 40 minutes from Mom's house, and who Owen described afterward as the most organized human being he had ever encountered. She had Mom's entire medical history, the blood work results, Dr. Park's referral notes, and a full battery of cognitive tests ready to administer. The appointment took almost 3 hours. I drove up for it. I wasn't going to miss it. Dr. Reyes tested everything: memory, attention, processing speed, executive function, language, the ability to follow multi-step instructions, visuospatial skills, the clock drawing test again, but more detailed this time. She also ordered an MRI, which happened the following week. We sat in her office after the cognitive battery was complete, before the MRI results, and she was careful with us. She said the profile she was seeing was interesting. There were areas of genuine difficulty consistent with the deficiencies we'd identified, but there were also areas of real strengths: her vocabulary, her semantic memory, meaning her general knowledge and understanding of the world, things learned over a lifetime, remained largely intact. Her narrative coherence, the ability to tell a story in sequence, to maintain a thread, was good. She said something I have thought about many times since. What I'm seeing is a brain that has been working very hard under conditions that made working hard extremely difficult. That's not the same as a brain that is failing. It's a brain that has been under-resourced. Under-resourced. I wrote that down on my phone while she was still talking. Under-resourced. The MRI came back a week later. No structural abnormalities. No plaques. No significant atrophy beyond what's considered age-appropriate. No indicators of vascular damage. Dr. Reyes's report was 8 pages long. I read every word. Twice. Owen read it. We read it together on a video call, taking turns. The conclusion was not dementia. The conclusion was that my mother's cognitive symptoms were most consistent with the combined effects of severe nutritional deficiencies, specifically B12 and vitamin D, undertreated hypothyroidism, and chronic dehydration. The report noted that these conditions, individually, can cause significant cognitive impairment. Combined and sustained over time, they can present as a clinical picture closely resembling early-stage dementia. The recommended course of action was continued supplementation and thyroid management, follow-up cognitive assessment in 6 months, and increased monitoring. It also recommended something I hadn't expected: increased social engagement, structured mental stimulation. The neurologist had asked Mom about her book club and her garden and her friends and whether she was lonely, really lonely, the kind of loneliness that settles in quietly and you stop noticing it's there. And my mother, who never complains, had admitted, carefully, with the careful precision she uses when she's about to say something true that she doesn't want to make into a bigger deal than it is, that since the pandemic, since losing 2 close friends in the years following, since the church started holding hybrid services and people stopped coming in person the way they used to, she had been spending more time alone than she was used to. Loneliness is not a character flaw. It's not weakness, but it is a health condition, and it affects cognition in ways that are still being studied and that are, in my opinion, criminally under-discussed in conversations about aging. My mother was lonely and dehydrated and B12 deficient and hypothyroid, and none of us had known because she had not told us, partly because she didn't want to burden us, and partly because she hadn't fully recognized it herself. Here is what I want to say to anyone who is where I was in February, sitting with a cold cup of coffee and a nagging feeling that something is wrong. Go. Do not wait. not because it will always be something serious. Sometimes, like in our case, the something serious turns out to be something treatable. But you cannot know that from 280 miles away. You cannot know that from a phone call. You need to show up in person and look at the mail on the counter and the dry garden and the glasses sitting in a drawer. You need to be in the room with the doctor who can order the blood work and interpret the results and explain what under-resourced actually means when it's applied to a human brain. I also want to say this, because I think it's important. Do not assume. I had started, quietly and without meaning to, building a mental picture of what was coming. I'd started reading about dementia caregiving. I'd started thinking about what the house would need, whether she'd ever agree to move, what the timeline might look like. I had started grieving a future I hadn't actually arrived at yet. That grief is natural. I'm not criticizing myself for it, but I want to name it because I think it's a trap that adult children fall into. This rush to worst case, this premature acceptance of a bad outcome before you've actually done the work of finding out what the outcome is. We don't know yet. We don't know until we know. And sometimes what we find out is different from what we feared. The 6-month follow-up was last month. My mother drove herself to the appointment. Owen rode along, but she drove. She parked. She walked in. She told Dr. Reyes about the book she was currently reading, a memoir by a woman who'd spent a year sailing solo around the world, and summarized the narrative arc in about 4 sentences with complete clarity and obvious enthusiasm. The cognitive assessment showed improvement across almost every domain. Not all the way back to a baseline we don't have, because we never tested her before any of this began. But measurably, documented, unambiguous improvement. Her B12 is now in the normal range. Her thyroid is managed. Her vitamin D is still on the low side of normal, which Dr. Reyes said is common in Idaho winters and not alarming given where she started. She is drinking water. She has a large, insulated bottle on her kitchen counter and another one in the car, and she refills them both every morning because she is my mother, and once she has accepted a fact, she integrates it completely. She is back to watering her garden. The zucchini is already out of control. She rejoined her book club, the one she'd been attending less regularly because she felt, she told me later, embarrassed that she sometimes lost the thread of the discussion. She doesn't lose the thread anymore, or at least not more than any of the other women in the group, several of whom are her age and all of whom have opinions. She still calls her pastor by the wrong name occasionally. She still forgets things, small things, the kind of things everyone forgets. She's 71 and she lives alone, and she is not the same person she was at 50, and she never will be again. That's aging. That's real. We are watching and we are paying attention, and we will continue to pay attention. But she is not disappearing. She is not gone. She is here. Last month, I called her on the Thursday morning to check in. We talked for 40 minutes about the sailing memoir, about her garden, about a documentary she'd watched about migratory birds that she thought I would like. She asked me if I was eating enough vegetables. She reminded me to take my vitamin D, which made me laugh out loud. Before she hung up, she said my name. Carrie. Just like that, in the middle of a sentence, the way she always has, the way she says it with the particular warmth that I have been hearing my entire life. I didn't tell her that I'd been afraid she might forget it. I just said, "Yes, Mom, I'm here." Here's what I've learned from these past 5 months, not as a medical professional, not as anyone with credentials or expertise in neurology, just as a daughter who drove 280 miles because a Thursday phone call didn't sound right. B12 deficiency is more common in older adults than most people realize, and its neurological effects can be profound and are often mistaken for something else. If someone you love is showing signs of cognitive decline, make sure B12, thyroid function, vitamin D, and basic metabolic labs have been checked recently. Not just included in a routine annual panel, checked and actually interpreted in the context of cognitive symptoms. Chronic dehydration in elderly adults is pervasive and under-recognized. Thirst sensation decreases with age. People drink less without knowing they're drinking less. This affects the brain. Social isolation is a health issue with real cognitive consequences. If an older person in your life has become quieter, more withdrawn, less engaged with the world, that is not just personality. That is worth asking about. Cognitive decline that looks like dementia is not always dementia. Before you accept that diagnosis, before you let anyone accept it, push for the workup. Push for the blood work. Push for the neurologist. You are allowed to ask for the full picture before you agree to the frame. And finally, the signs that something is wrong are almost never dramatic. They are small. They are easy to explain away. They are easy to attribute to tiredness or stress or getting older. The Thursday morning phone call where she couldn't remember the word for spoon. That was the sign. I heard it and I waited 3 more weeks anyway. I'm not saying don't wait because something terrible will always happen if you do. Sometimes you wait and it's fine, but sometimes you wait and it's fine and you don't know which is which until you've gone and looked. So go. Make the call. Make the appointment. Ask the questions. Your person is worth the drive. Every morning at 6:15, my phone doesn't ring. That's not how my mother and I work. But she calls sometime in the morning, usually between 8 and 9, usually because she's thought of something she wants to tell me about her book. And every time her name comes up on my screen, I answer before the second ring. Not because I'm scared, because I learned that showing up is a choice you make before you need to, not after. The garden is full of zucchini. She's reading a memoir about birds. She called me Carrie. We are okay, but I am watching, and I always will be. If this story resonates with you, if you have a parent or a grandparent or someone you love who you've been quietly worrying about, please share this. Not because I want the views, because somewhere out there is a daughter sitting with a cold cup of coffee and a gut feeling she keeps talking herself out of. She needs to hear that the feeling is worth listening to. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Tell me if you've been through something like this with someone you love. Tell me what you wish you'd known sooner. I read every single one.